Blessed love and peace. This is recitation of Tobadi Gokadao, Torah, Bhagavad Gita, Digha Nikaya, Dhammapada, Gospels, Quran, and Tao Te Ching. Portion numero 11, which is Vayigash. That includes, within Torah, Parsha Vayigash, which is Bereshit 44:18 a 47:27. Within the Chandogya Upanishad, it is Kanda 1:13. Within the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Visvarupa Darshana, numero 11. Within the Tao Te Ching, it is chapter 11. Within the Lunyu, it is chapter 11. Within the Digha Nikaya, it is Kasapa Sihanada Sutta, numero 8. And within the Dhammapada, it is the Jaravaga, numero 11. Within the Gospels, it is Matthew, chapters 21 a 22, and with the Quran, it is Surah Hud, numero 11. We begin a 10-part reading of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. This week is the Japji and verse 1. Bismillah ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. Allah wabha. Dao ka dao, fei chong dao, min ka min, fei chong min. Ja Rastafari. Deus noster qui es in cieli sanctificator nomen tuum. Vaheguru Satnam. Baruch atah Elohim, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Elohim, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kasanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'nasok b'dvar Torah. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Sivamastu Save Jagatahim, Sabe Sata Bhavantu Sukhitata. Fagabia. Akwaba Upendo na Amani. Fikiri Inisilami. Chinta Dan Panamian. Liabovimir. Womajaga. Ubuntu. Shabono. Fakhithga. Shishe, como sonida, domo arigato, pela mayela wakan talk odokushin good. Go miligan, God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata jam yata afanami. Ado, aho, om shanti, 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 amen. Torah Vayigash. Then Yehuda approached him and said, "Please, my master, let now let now your servant speak something into my master's ears, and let not your wrath be kindled against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh." My master asked the servant, saying, "Have you a far or a brother?" And we said to my master, "We have an old far, and a young child of his old age, and his brother is dead, and he is left alone of his moor, and his far loves him. And you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, and I will set my eyes upon him. And we said to my master, The boy cannot leave his far, for if he leaves his far, he will die. And you said to your servants, If your youngest brother does not come down with you, you will not see my face again. And it came to pass, when we went up to your servant, my far, and we told him the words of my master, that our far said, Go back, buy us a little food. But we said, We cannot go down, only if our youngest brother is with us, will we go down. For we cannot see the man's face if our youngest brother is not with us. And your servant my far said to us, You know that my wife bore me 2 children. The one went away from me, and I said, He has surely been torn to portions, and I have not seen him since. Now if you take this one too away from me, and misfortune befalls him, you will bring down my hoary head in misery to the grave. And now when I come to your servant my far, and the boy is not with us, since his soul is attached to the boy's soul, it will come to pass, when he sees that the boy is gone, he will die. And your servants will have brought down the hoary head of your servant our far in grief to the grave. For your servant assumed responsibility for the boy from my far, saying, If I do not bring him to you, I will have sinned against my far forever. So now please let your servant stay instead of the boy as a slave to my master, and may the boy go up with his brothers. For how will I go up to my far if the boy is not with me? Let me not see the misery that will befall my far. Now Joseph could not bear all those standing beside him, and he called out, "Take everyone away from me." So no one stood with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, so the Egyptians heard, and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers could not answer him, because they were startled by his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Please come closer to me." And they drew closer. He said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. But now do not be sad, and let it not trouble you that you sold me here. For it was to preserve life that Elohim sent me before you. For already 2 years of famine have passed in the midst of the land, and for another 5 years there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. And Elohim sent me before you to make for you a remnant in the land, and to preserve it for you for a great deliverance. And now you did not send me here, but Elohim, and Elohim made me a pharaoh to Pharaoh, a master over all his household, and a ruler over the entire land of Egypt. Hasten and go out to my pharaoh, and say to him, So said your son Joseph, Elohim has made me a master over all of the Egyptians. Come down to me, do not tarry. And you shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near to me, you and your children and your grandchildren, and your flocks and your cattle, and all that is yours. And I will sustain you there, for there are still 5 years of famine, lest you become impoverished, you and your household, and all that is yours. And behold, your eyes see, as well as the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that it is my mouth speaking to you. And you shall tell my pharaoh of all my honor in Egypt, and all that you have seen, and you shall hasten and bring my pharaoh down here. And he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck, and wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. And he kissed all his brothers, and wept over them, and afterwards his brothers spoke with him. And the voice was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brothers have come. And it pleased Pharaoh and his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Tell your brothers, do this, load up your beasts, and go enter the land of Canaan. And take your pharaoh and your households, and come to me, and I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you will eat the fat of the land. And you, Joseph, have been commanded to tell them, Do this, take yourselves wagons from the land of Egypt for your young children and for your wives, and you shall carry your pharaoh and come. And let your eye not be concerned about your utensils, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours. And the sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons by Pharaoh's orders, and he gave them provisions for the way. He gave them all to each one several changes of clothes, and to Benjamin he gave 300 portions of silver and 5 changes of clothes. And to his pharaoh he sent the following: 10 he-donkeys carrying of the best of Egypt, and 10 she-donkeys carrying grain, bread, and other food for his pharaoh for the way. And he sent off his brothers, and they went, and he said to them, Do not quarrel on the way. So they went up from Egypt, and they came to the land of Canaan to their pharaoh Yaakov. And they told him, saying, Joseph is still alive. And they told him that he ruled over the entire land of Egypt, and his heart changed, for he did not believe them. And they told him all of Joseph's words that he had said to them, and he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to carry him, and the spirit of their pharaoh Yaakov was revived. And Israel said, Enough, my son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. And Israel and all that was his set out and came to Beersheba, and he slaughtered offerings to Elohim of his pharaoh Yaakov. And Elohim said to Israel in visions of the night, and Elohim said, Yaakov, Yaakov. And he said, Here I am. And Elohim said, I am Elohim, Elohim of your pharaoh. Do not be afraid of going down to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. And I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up, and Joseph will place his hand on your eyes. And Yaakov arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried their pharaoh Yaakov and their young children and their wives in the wagons Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their livestock and their possessions that they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and they came to Egypt, Yaakov and all his descendants with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his descendants he brought with him to Egypt. And these are the names of the children of Israel who were coming to Egypt: Yaakov and his sons. Yaakov's firstborn was Reuben. And the sons of Reuben were Chanoch and Palu, Hezron and Carmi. And the sons of Shimon were Yemuel, Yamin, Ochad, and Yachin, and Zohar, and Saul the son of Canaanites. And and the sons of Levi were Gershon, Kehat, and Merari. And the sons of Yehuda were Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. Now and Onan had died in the land of Canaan, and the sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. And the sons of Issachar were Tola, Puvah, Yob, and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun were Sered, Elon, and Yalil. These are the sons of Leah that she bore to Yaakov in Padan Aram, and Dinah his daughter. All the souls of his sons and daughters were 33. And the sons of Gad were Ziphion, Hagi, Shuni, Ezbon, Eri, Arodi, and Ereli. And the sons of Asher were Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, and Bria. And Sarah, their sister, and the sons of Bria were Heber and Malkiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Lavan gave to his daughter Leah, and she bore these to Yaakov 16 souls. The sons of Rachel, Yaakov's wife, were Yosef and Benjamin. And to Yosef were born in the land of Egypt, whom Asenat, the daughter of Potipharah, the governor of On, bore to him, Manasseh and Ephraim. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gerah, Naaman, Ehi, and Rosh, Mupim, Hupim, and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel who were born to Yaakov. All the souls were 14. And the sons of Dan, Hushim. And the sons of Naphtali were Yazil, Guni, Yezer, and Shilem. These are the sons of Bilhah, whom Lavan had given to his daughter Rachel, and she bore these to Yaakov. All the souls were 7. All the souls coming to Egypt with Yaakov, those descended from him, excluding the wives of Yaakov's sons, all the souls were 66. And Joseph's sons, who were born to him in Egypt, 2 souls, and all the souls of the house of Yaakov who came to Egypt were 70. He sent Yehuda ahead of him to Joseph to direct him to Goshen, and they came to the land of Goshen. And Joseph harnessed his chariot, and he went up to meet Israel his father to Goshen, and he appeared to him, and he fell on his neck, and he wept on his neck for a long time. And Israel said to Joseph, I will die this time, since I have seen your face, that you are still alive. Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, I will go up and tell Pharaoh, and I will say to him, my brothers and my father's household who are in the land of Canaan have come to me. The men are shepherds, for they were always owners of livestock and their flocks and their cattle, and all they have brought. And if it comes to pass that Pharaoh calls you and asks, what is your occupation? You shall say, your servants have been owners of livestock from our youth until now, both we and our ancestors, so that you may dwell in the land of Goshen, because all shepherds are abhorrent to the Egyptians. Joseph came to and told Pharaoh, and he said, my father and my brothers and their flocks and their cattle and all that is theirs have come from the land of Canaan, and behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And from amongst his brothers he took 5 men, and he presented them before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to his brothers, what is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, your servants are shepherds, both we and our forefathers. And they said to Pharaoh, we have come to sojourn in the land, for your servants' flocks have no pasture, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is open before you. In the best of the land settle your father and your brothers. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen, and if you know that there are capable men amongst them, make them livestock officers over what is mine. So Joseph brought his father Yaakov and stood him before Pharaoh, and Yaakov greeted Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Yaakov, how many are the days of the years of your life? And Yaakov said to Pharaoh, the days of the years of my sojournings are 130 years. The days of the years of my life have been few and miserable, and they have not reached the days of the years of the lives of my forefathers in the days of their sojournings. So Yaakov blessed Pharaoh and left Pharaoh's presence. Joseph settled his father and his brothers, and he gave them property in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had mandated. And Joseph sustained his father and his brothers and his father's entire household with bread according to the young children. Now there was no food in the entire land, for the famine had grown exceedingly severe, and the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan were exhausted because of the famine. And Joseph collected all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan with the grain that they were buying, and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. Now the money was depleted from the land of Egypt and from the land of Canaan, and all the Egyptians came to Joseph, saying, give us food. Why should we die in your presence, since the money has been used up? And Joseph said, give me your livestock, and I will give you food in return for your livestock, if the money has been used up. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them food in return for the horses, and for the livestock in flocks, and in cattle, and in donkeys. And he provided them with food in return for all their livestock in that year. That year ended, and they came to him in the 2nd year, and they said to him, we will not hide from my master, for in so much as the money and the property and animals have been forfeited to my master, nothing remains before my master except our bodies and our agricultural land. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our agricultural land? Buy us and our agricultural land for food, so that we and our agricultural land will be slaves to Pharaoh, and give us seed so that we live and not die, and the soil will not lie fallow. So Joseph bought all the agricultural land of the Egyptians for Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold each one his field, for the famine had become too strong for them, and the land became Pharaoh's. And he transferred the populace to the cities from one end of the boundary of Egypt to its other end. Only the agricultural land of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had an allotment from Pharaoh, and they ate their allotment that Pharaoh had given them. Therefore they did not sell their agricultural land. Joseph said to the people, Behold, I have bought you and your agricultural land today for Pharaoh. Behold, you have seed, so sow the soil. And it shall be concerning the crops that you shall give a fifth to Pharaoh, and the remaining 4 parts shall be yours, for seed, for your fields, for your food, for those in your houses, and for your children to eat. They replied, You have saved our lives. Let us find favor in my master's eyes, and we will be slaves to Pharaoh. So Joseph made it a statute to this day concerning the agricultural land of Egypt for the 1/5. Only the agricultural land of the priests alone did not become Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the land of Goshen, and they acquired property in it, and they were prolific and multiplied greatly. Chandogya Upanishad, Kanda 1:13. This earth is verily a syllable. This earth is verily the syllable ha. The air is the syllable hai. The moon is the syllable ata. The self is the syllable iha. The fire is the syllable I. The soleil is the syllable u. The invocation is the syllable e. The Visvadevas are the syllable hu, ho, I. O, ho, I. Prajapati is the syllable him. The prana is the syllable svara. Food is the syllable ya. Virat is the syllable vak. Indefinable is the 13th stoba, namely the variable syllable hum. To him who knows this secret knowledge of the Samans, speech yields milk, and milk is speech. He becomes the possessor of food and the eater of food. He who knows this, yea, he who knows this. Bhagavad Gita, the Visvarupa Darshana Yogahe. Numero 11. Arjuna says, Out of compassion for me you have spoken words of ultimate profundity concerning the self, and they have dispelled my delusion. I have learnt from you at length, O lotus-eyed Krishna, of the origin and dissolution of beings, and also of your inexhaustible greatness. As you have declared yourself to be, O Supreme Master, even so it is. Yet do I desire to see your Isvara form, O Supreme Purusha. If O Master, you think me able to behold it, then, O Master of Yogis, reveal to me your immutable self. Sri Krishna says, Behold my forms, O Partha, by the hundreds and the thousands, manifold and holy, various in shape and hue. Behold the Adityas and the Vasus and the Rudras and the twin Ashwins and the Maruts. Behold, O Bharata, many wonders that no one has ever seen before. Behold here today, Gudakesa, the whole universe of the moving and the unmoving, and whatever else you desire to see, all concentrated in my body. But with these eyes of yours you cannot see me. I give you a sacred eye. Behold now my sovereign yoga power. Sanjaya says, Having spoken thus, O King Hari, the great master of yoga, revealed to Arjuna Brahman's supreme form as Ishvara. With many faces and eyes, presenting many wondrous sights, bedecked with many celestial ornaments, armed with many sacred uplifted weapons, wearing celestial garlands and vestments, anointed with holy perfumes, all wonderful, resplendent, boundless, and with faces on all sides. If the radiance of 8,000 soleils were to burst forth at once in the sky, that would be like the splendor of the Mighty One. There, in the presence of Brahman, the god of angels, Arjuna beheld the whole universe with its manifold visions, all gathered together in one. Then, overcome with wonder, his hair standing on end, Arjuna bowed his head to the master, joined his palms in salutation, and thus addressed Brahman. Arjuna says, In thy body, O Master, I behold all the angels and all the diverse hosts of beings, the Master Brahma seated on the lotus, and all the rishis and the celestial serpents. I behold thee with myriads of arms and bellies, with myriads of faces and eyes. I behold thee infinite in form on every side, but I see not thy end, nor thy middle, nor thy beginning, O Master of the universe, O universal form. I behold thee on all sides, glowing with a mass of radiance, with thy diadem and mace and discus blazing everywhere like burning fire and the burning soleil, hard to look at and passing all measure. Thou art the imperishable, the supreme being to be realized. Thou art the supreme support of the universe. Thou art the undying guardian of the eternal Dharma. Thou art, in my belief, the primal being. I behold thee as one without beginning, middle, or end, with infinite arms and immeasurable strength, with the soleil and moon as thine eyes, with thy face shining like a blazing fire, and burning with thy radiance the whole universe. By thee alone are filled all the space between heaven and earth, and all the quarters of the sky. O mighty one, the three worlds behold thy marvelous and appalling form, and tremble with fear. Into thee enter these hosts of angels, and some in fear extol thee with folded hands. And bands of rishis and siddhas exclaim, may there be peace, and praise thee with splendid hymns. The Rudras, Adityas, Vasus, and Saya, and the Vishus, Aswins, Maruts, and Ushmapas, and the hosts of the Gandharvas, Yakshas, Asuras, and Siddhas, all behold thee and are amazed. Beholding thy great form, O mighty Master, with myriads of mouths and eyes, and with myriads of arms and thighs and feet, with myriads of bellies, and with myriads of terrible tusks, the worlds are affrighted, and so am I. When I look upon thy blazing form reaching to the skies and shining in many colors, when I see thee with thy mouth opened wide and thy great eyes glowing bright, my inmost soul trembles in fear, and I find neither courage nor peace, O Vishnu. When I behold thy mouths striking terror with thy tusks like time's all-consuming fire, I am disoriented and find no peace. Be gracious, O Master of the angels, O abode of the universe. All the sons of Dhritarashtra, together with the hosts of monarchs in Bhishma, Drona, and Karna, and the warrior chiefs of our side as well, enter precipitately, thy tusked and terrible mouths frightful to behold. Some are seen caught between thy teeth, their heads crushed to powder. As the many torrents of the rivers rush towards the ocean, so do the heroes of the living world rush into thy fiercely flaming mouths. As moths rush swiftly into a blazing fire to perish there, even so do these creatures swiftly rush into thy mouths to their destruction. Thou lookest thy lips, devouring all the worlds on every side with thy flaming mouths. Thy fiery rays fill the universe with their radiance and scorch it, O Vishnu. Tell me who thou art that wearest this frightful form. Salutations to thee, O Brahman Supreme, have mercy. I desire to know thee, who art the primal one, for I do not understand thy purpose. Sri Krishna says, I am mighty, world-destroying time, now engaged here in slaying these men. Even without you, all these warriors standing arrayed in the opposing armies shall not live. Therefore stand up and win glory, conquer your enemies, and enjoy an opulent kingdom. By me and none other have they already been slain. Be an instrument only, O Arjuna. Kill Drona and Bhishma and Jayadratha and Karna and the other great warriors as well, who have already been killed by me. Be not distressed by fear. Fight, and you shall conquer your foes in the battle. Sanjaya says, having heard these words of Krishna, Arjuna folded his hands in adoration and bowed down. Overwhelmed with fear, he saluted Krishna and then addressed Brahman again with faltering voice. Arjuna says, it is right, O Rishikesa, that the world rejoices and delights in glorifying thee. The Rakshasas flee on all sides in terror, and the hosts of Siddhas all bowed to thee in adoration. Why should they not bow down to thee, O mighty being, greater than all, since thou art the primal cause even of Brahman? O infinite one, master of angels, abode of the universe, thou art the imperishable being and non-being, and that which is the supreme. Thou art the first of angels, the ancient soul. Thou art the supreme resting place of the universe. Thou art the knower and that which is to be known, and the ultimate goal. And by thee is the world pervaded, O thou of infinite form. Thou art wind and death, and fire and moon, and the master of water. Thou art Prajapati and the great grandsire. Salutations, salutations to thee 1,000 times, and again and yet again salutations, salutations to thee. Salutations to thee before, salutations to thee behind, salutations to thee on every side. O all, infinite in might and immeasurable in strength, thou pervadest all, and therefore thou art all. Whatever I have rashly said from inadvertence or love, addressing thee as O Krishna or O Yadava or O friend, regarding thee merely as a friend unaware of thy greatness, and in whatever other ways I may have shown disrespect to thee whilst playing or resting, whilst sitting or eating, whilst alone, O eternal master, or in the presence of others, all that I implore thee, O immeasurable, to forgive. Thou art the creator of the world, of all that move and all that do not move. Thou art the object of its worship, its most venerable teacher. There is no equal to thee. How then in the three worlds could there be another superior to thee, O thou of incomparable might? Therefore I bow down and prostrate my body before thee, the adorable Master, and seek thy grace. Bear with me, O Master, as a father with a son, as a friend with a friend, or as a lover with his beloved. I rejoice that I have seen what was never seen before, but my mind is also troubled with fear. Show me that other form of thine. Be gracious, O Master of angels, O abode of the universe. I would see thee as before, with thy crown and thy mace and the discus in thy hand. Assume again thy form, thy four-armed shape, O thou of 1,000 arms and of endless shapes. Sri Krishna says, by my grace, through my own yoga power, O Arjuna, I have shown you this supreme form, resplendent, universal, infinite, and primeval, which none but you has ever seen. Neither by the study of the Vedas and offerings, nor by gifts, nor by rituals, nor by severe penances is this form of mine to be seen in the world of men by anyone but you, O chief of the Kurus. Be not afraid, be not bewildered on seeing this terrific form of mine, free from fear and glad at heart. Behold again my other form. Sanjaya says, having thus addressed Arjuna, Vasudeva revealed to him Sri Krishna's own form. The great one assumed a graceful shape again and comforted the terrified Pandava. Arjuna says, looking at this gentle form of yours, O Janardana, I now feel composed in mind. I am myself again. Sri Krishna says, it is very hard to see this form of mine which you have seen. Even the angels are ever eager to see this form. Neither by the Vedas, nor by penances, nor by almsgiving, nor yet by offering, am I to be seen in the form in which you have now beheld me. But by devotion to me alone may I be known in this form, O Arjuna, realized truly and entered into, O dreaded prince. He who does my work and looks on me as the supreme goal, who is devoted to me, who is without attachment and without hatred for any creature, he comes to me, O Pandava. Tao Te Ching, 11. 30 spokes join in one hub. In its emptiness, there is the function of a vehicle. Mix clay to create a container. In its emptiness, there is the function of a container. Cut open doors and windows to create a room. Cut open doors and windows to create a room. In its emptiness, there is the function of a room. Therefore, that which exists is utilized to create benefit. That which is empty is utilized to create functionality. Lun Yu, 11. The Master says, as much as the rites in music are concerned, the disciples who were the first to come to me were rustics, whilst those who came to me afterwards were gentlemen. When it comes to putting the rites in music to utilization, I follow the former. The Master says, none of those who were with me in Chen and Tai ever got as distant as my door. Virtuous conduct, Yin, Yuan, Mim, Tzu, Qian, Jan, Po, Nyo, Zhang, Po, Nu, and Chung Kung speak. Cai Wo and Tu Kung government. Zhan Yu and Qi Lu culture and learning. Tu Yu and Tu Cha virtuous conduct. Yan Yuan, Tu Qian, Zhan Po Nu, and Chung Kung. Speech, Cai Wo and Tu Kung. Government, Zhan Yu and Qi Lu. Culture and learning, Tu Yu and Tu Xia. The Master says, he is no help to me at all. He is pleased with everything I say. The Master says, what a benevolent son Tu Qian is. No one can find fault with what his parents and brothers have to say about him. Nanjung repeats over and over again the lines about the white jade scepter. Kong Fuzi gives him his elder brother's daughter in marriage. Qi Kong Tu asks which of his disciples was eager to learn. Kong Fuzi answers, there was one, Yen Hui, who was eager to learn, but unfortunately his allotted span was a short one and he died. Now there is no one. Yen Yuan dies. Yin Lu asks the master to give him his carriage to pay for an outer coffin for his son. The master says everyone speaks up for his own son, whether he is talented or not. When Li dies, he has a coffin but no outer coffin. I did not go on foot in order to provide him with an outer coffin, because it would not have been proper for me to go on foot, seeing that I took my place after the counselors. When Yin Wan dies, the master says, alas, heaven has bereft me. Heaven has bereft me. When Yan Wan dies, in weeping for him, the master shows under sorrow. His followers say, you are showing the master shows undue sorrow. His followers say, you are showing undue sorrow. Am I? Yet if not for him, for whom should I show undue sorrow? When Yan Wan dies, the disciples want to give him a lavish burial. The master says it would not be proper. All the same, they give him a lavish burial. The master says, Hui treats me as a far, yet I have been prevented from treating him as a son. This was none of my choice. It is the doing of these others. Chi Lu asks how the spirits of the dead and the angels should be served. The master says, you are not able even to serve man. How can you serve the spirits? May I ask you about death? You do not understand even life. How can you understand death? In attendance on the master, Min Tzu looks respectful and upright. Tzu Lu looks unbending. Zhan Yu and Tzu Kung look affable. The master was happy. A man like you will not die a natural death. The people of Lu were rebuilding the treasury. Min Tzu Qian says, why not simply restore it? Why must it be totally rebuilt? The master says, either this man does not speak or he says something to the point. The master says, what is Yu's lute doing inside my door? The disciples cease to treat Tzu Lu with respect. The master says, you may not have entered the inner room, but he has ascended to the hall. Tzu Kung asks, who is superior, Shi or Shang? The master says, Shi overshoots the mark, Shang falls short. Does that mean that she is in fact better? The master says, there is little to choose between overshooting the mark and falling short. The wealth of the Qi family was greater than that of the Duke of Chao, and still Chu helps them add further to that wealth by raking in the taxes. The master says, he is no disciple of mine. You, my young friends, may attack him openly to the beating of drums. The master says, Chai is stupid, Chan is slow, Shi is one-sided, Yu is forthright. The master says, Hui is perhaps difficult to improve upon. He allows himself constantly to be in dire poverty. Tzu refuses to accept his lot and indulges in money-making and is frequently right in his conjectures. Tzu Chong asks about the way of the benevolent man. The master says, such a man does not follow in other people's footsteps, neither does he gain entrance into the inner room. The master says, is one who simply sides with tenacious opinions a gentleman, or is he merely putting on a dignified appearance? Tzu Lu asks, should one immediately put into practice what one has heard? The master says, as your far and elder brothers are still alive, you are hardly in a position immediately to put into practice what you have heard. Jian Yu asks, should one immediately put into practice what one has heard? The master says, yes, one should. Yes, one should. Kung Si Hua says, when Yu asks whether one should immediately put into practice what one had heard, you pointed out that his far and elder brothers were alive. Yet when Chu asks whether one should immediately put into practice what one had heard, you answer that one should. I am puzzled. May I be enlightened? The master says, Chu holds himself back. It is for this reason that I tried to urge him on. Yu has the energy of two men. It is for this reason that I tried to hold him back. When the master was under siege in Kuang, young Yuan fell behind. The master says, I thought you had met your death. Whilst you, master, are alive, how would I dare die? Qi Zu Zhang asks, can Chung Yu and Zhang Qi be called great ministers? The master says, I had expected a somewhat different question. It never occurred to me that you were going to ask about Yu and Qi. The term great minister refers to those who serve their master according to the way, and who, when this is no longer possible, relinquish office. Now men like you and Chu can be described as ministers appointed to make up the full quota. In that case, are they the kind that will always do as they are told? No, they will not do so when it comes to patricide or regicide. On the occasion, Tzu Lu makes Tzu Kuo the prefect of Pi. The master says, he is ruining another man's son. Tzu Lu says, there are the common people and one's fellow men, and there are the altars to the angels of the earth and grain. Why must one have to read books before one is said to learn? The master says, it is for this reason that I dislike men who are plausible. When Tzu Lu, Cheng Xi, Zhang Yu, and Kong Xi Hua were seated in attendance, the master says, do not feel constrained simply because I am a little older than you are. Now you are in the habit of saying my abilities are not appreciated. But if someone did appreciate your abilities, do tell me how you would go about things. Tzu Lu promptly answers, if I were to administer a state of 1,000 chariots situated between powerful neighbors, troubled by armed invasions and repeated famines, I could within 3 years give the people courage and a sense of direction. The master smiles at him. Chu, what about you? If I were to administer an area measuring 60 or 70 li square, or even 50 or 60 li square, I could within 3 years bring the size of the population up to an adequate level. As to the rites and music, I would leave that to abler gentlemen. Qi, how about you? I do not say that I already have the ability, but I am ready to learn. On ceremonial occasions, in the ancestral temple, or in diplomatic gatherings, I should like to assist as a minor official in charge of protocol, properly dressed in my ceremonial cap and robes. Tian, how about you? After a few dying notes came the final chord, and then he stood up from his lute. I differ from the other three in my choice. The master says, what harm is there in that? After all, each man is stating what he has set his heart upon. In late spring, after the spring clothes have been newly made, I should like, together with 5 or 6 adults and 6 or 7 boys, to go bathing in the river Yi and enjoy the breeze on the rain altar, and then go home chanting poetry. The master sighs and says, I am all in favor of Tian. When the 3 left, Cheng Xi stays behind. He says, what do you think of what the other 3 said? They were only stating what they had set their hearts upon. Why did you smile at you? It is by the rights that a state is administered, but in the way he spoke you showed a lack of modesty. That is why I smiled at him. In the case of Chu, was he not concerned with a state? What can justify one in saying that 60 or 70 li square, or indeed 50 or 60 li square, do not deserve the name of state? In the case of Qi, was he not concerned with a state? What are ceremonial occasions in the ancestral temple and diplomatic gatherings, if not matters which concern rulers or feudal states? If Chu plays only a minor part, who would be able to play a major role? The Dignikaya. Kasapa Sihanada Sutta, número 8. Thus have I heard. The Blessed One was once dwelling at Ugunya, in the Kanakatala deer park. Now Kasapa, a naked ascetic, came to where the Exalted One was and exchanged with him the greetings and compliments of civility and courtesy, and stood respectfully aside. And so standing, he said to the Exalted One, I have heard it said, O Gotama, thus, the Samana Gotama disparages all penance. Verily he reviles and finds fault with every ascetic, with everyone who lives a hard life. Now those, O Gotama, who said this, were they therein repeating Gotama's words, or not, and not reporting him falsely, Are they announcing as a minor tenet of his a matter truly following from his Dharma, his system? Is there nothing in this opinion of his so put forward as wrapped up with his system, or as a corollary from it that could meet with objection? For we would fain bring no false accusation against the Venerable Gotama. No, Kassapa, those who said so were not following my words. On the contrary, they were reporting me falsely, and at variance with the fact. Herein, O Kassapa, I am wont to be aware with vision bright and purified, seeing beyond what men can see, how some men given to asceticism, living a hard life, are reborn on the dissolution of the body after death into some unhappy fallen state of misery and woe, whilst others living just so are reborn into some happy state, or into a heavenly world. How some men given to asceticism, but living a life less hard, are equally reborn on the dissolution of the body after death into some unhappy fallen state of misery and woe, whilst others living just so are reborn in some happy state, or into a heavenly world. How then could I, O Kassapa, who am thus aware, as they truly are, of the states whence men have come and whither they will go, as they pass away from one form of existence and take shape in another? How could I disparage all penance, or bluntly revile or find fault with every ascetic, with every one who lives a life that is hard? Now there are, O Kassapa, certain recluses and Brahmas who are clever, subtle, experienced in controversy, hair-splitters, who go about, one would think, breaking into portions by their wisdom the speculations of their adversaries. And as between them and me there is, as to some points, agreement, and as to some points not. As to some of those things they approve, we also approve thereof. As to some of those things they disapprove, we also disapprove thereof. As to some of the things they approve, we disapprove thereof. As to some of the things they disapprove, we approve thereof. And some things we approve of, so do they. And some things we disapprove of, so do they. And some things we approve, they do not. And some things we disapprove of, they approve of. And I went to them and said, As for those things, my friends, on which we do not agree, let us leave them alone. As to those things on which we agree, let the wise put questions about them, ask for reasons as to them, talk them over with or to their teacher, with or to their fellow disciples, saying, Those conditions of heart, sirs, which are evil or accounted as evil amongst you, which are blameworthy or accounted as such amongst you, which are insufficient for the attainment of arahatship, or accounted as such amongst you, depraved or accounted such amongst you. Who is it who conducts himself as one who has further absolutely put them away from him, the Samana Gotama or the other venerable ones, the teachers of schools? Then it may well be, O Kassapa, that the wise, so putting questions one to the other, asking for reasons, talking the matter over, should say, The Samana Gotama conducts himself as one who has absolutely put those conditions away from him, whereas the venerable ones, the other teachers of schools, have done so only partially. Thus is it, O Kassapa, that the wise, so putting questions one to the other, asking for reasons, talking the matter over, would, for the most part, speak in honor of us therein. And again, O Kassapa, let the wise put questions one to another, ask for reasons, talk the matter over, with or to their teacher, with or to their fellow disciples, saying, Those conditions of heart, sirs, which are benevolent, or accounted as such amongst you, which are blameless, or accounted as such amongst you, which suffice to lead a man to arahatship, or are accounted as sufficient amongst you, which are pure, or accounted as such amongst you. Who is it who conducts himself as one who has further completely taken them upon him, the Samana Gotama, or the other venerable ones, the teachers of schools? Then it may well be, O Kassapa, that the wise, so putting questions one to the other, asking for reasons, talking the matter over, should say, The Samana Gotama conducts himself as one who has completely taken these conditions upon him, whereas the venerable ones, the other teachers of schools, have done so only partially. Thus it is, O Kassapa, that the wise, so putting questions one to the other, asking for reasons, talking the matter over, would, for the most part, speak in honor of us therein. And further also, O Kassapa, the wise would, for the most part, acknowledge that the body of my disciples were further addicted to that which is generally acknowledged to be benevolent, refrain themselves further completely from that which is generally acknowledged to be evil, than the venerable ones, the disciplines of other teachers. Now there is the disciples of other teachers. Now there is, O Kassapa, a way, there is a method, which if a man follow, he will of himself both see and know that the Samana Gotama is one who speaks in due season, speaks that which redounds to advantage, that which is the Dhamma, that which is the law of self-restraint, the Vinaya. And what, Kassapa, is that way, what that method, which if a man follow, he will of himself know that and see that? Verily it is this noble eightfold path, that is to say, right views, right aspiration, right speech, right action, right mode of livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right rapture. This, Kassapa, is that way, this that method, which if a man follow, he will of himself both know and see that the Samana Gotama is one who speaks in due season, speaks that which redounds to benefit, that which is the Dhamma, that which is the law of self-restraint. And when he had spoken thus, Kasaba the naked ascetic said to the exalted one, and so also Gautama are the following ascetic practices, accounted in the opinion of some samanas and brahmanas as samanaship and brahmanaship. He goes naked. He is of loose habits for performing his bodily functions and eating food in a standing posture, not crouching down or sitting down, as well-bred people do. He licks his hands clean after eating instead of washing them, as others do. When on his rounds for alms, if politely requested to step nearer or to wait a moment, in order that food may be put into his bowl, he passes stolidly on, lest he should incur the guilt of following another person's word. He refuses to accept food brought to him before he has started on his daily round for alms. He refuses to accept food if told that it has been prepared especially for him. He refuses to accept any invitation to call on his rounds at any particular house, or to pass along any particular street, or to go to any particular place. He will not accept food taken directly from the mouth of the pot or pans in which it is cooked, lest those vessels should be struck or scraped on his account with a spoon. He will not accept food placed within the threshold, lest it should have been placed there specially for him. He will not accept food placed amongst the sticks, lest it should have been placed there specially for him. He will not accept food placed amongst the pestles, lest it should have been placed there specially for him. When two persons are eating together, he will not accept food taken from what they are eating, if offered to him by only one of the two. He will not accept food from a woman with child, lest the child should suffer want. He will not accept food from a woman giving suck, lest the milk should grow less. He will not accept food from a woman in intercourse with a man, lest their intercourse be hindered. He will not accept food collected by the faithful in time of drought. He will not accept food where a dog is standing by, lest the dog should lose a meal. He will not accept food where flies are swarming round, lest the flies should suffer. He will not accept fish, nor meat, nor strong drink, nor intoxicants, nor gruel. He is a one-houser, turning back from his round as soon as he has received an alms at any one house. A one-mouthful man, or he is a two-houser, a two-mouthful man, or he is a seven-houser, a seven-mouthful man. He keeps himself going on only one alms, or only two, or so on up to only 7. He takes food only once a day, or once every 2 days, or so on up to once every 7 days. He does not dwell addicted to the practice of taking food according to rule at regular intervals up to even half a month. And so also Gautama are the following ascetic practices, accounted in the opinion of some samanas and brahmanas as samanaship and brahmanaship. He feeds on potherbs, on wild rice and navara seeds, on leather parings, on the water plant called hata, on the fine powder which adheres to the grains of rice beneath the husk, on the discarded scum of boiling rice, on the flour of oil seeds, on grasses, on cow dung, on fruits and roots from the woods, on fruits that have fallen of themselves. And so also Gautama are the following ascetic practices, accounted in the opinion of some samanas and brahmanas as samanaship and brahmanaship. He wears coarse hempen cloth. He wears coarse cloth of interwoven hemp and other materials. He wears cloths taken from corpses and thrown away. He wears clothing made of rags picked up from a dust heap. He wears clothing made of the bark of the tirataka tree. He wears the natural hide of a black antelope. He wears a dress made of a network of strips of black antelope's hide. He wears a dress made of kusha grass fiber. He wears a garment of bark. He wears a garment made of small slips or slabs of wood, shingled placed together. He wears as a garment a blanket of human hair. He wears as a garment a blanket made of horses' tails. He wears as a garment a blanket made of the feathers of owls. He is a plucker out of hair and beard, addicted to the practice of plucking out both hair and beard. He is a stander-up, rejecting the utilization of a seat. He is a croucher down on the heels, addicted to exerting himself when crouching down on his heels. He is a bed of thorns man, putting iron spikes or natural thorns under the skin on which he sleeps. He utilizes a plank bed. He sleeps on the bare ground. He sleeps always on one side. He is a dust and dirt wearer, smearing his body with oil. He stands where dust clouds blow, and lets the dust adhere to his body. He lives and sleeps in the open air. Whatsoever seed is offered to him, that he accepts, without being offended at its being not dignified enough. He is a filth eater, addicted to the practice of feeding on the 4 kinds of filth: cow dung, cow's urine, ashes, and clay. He is a non-drinker, addicted to the practice of never drinking cold water, lest he should injure the spirit in it. He is an evening third man, addicted to the practice of going down into water thrice a day to wash away his sins. If a man, O Kasapa, should go naked and be of loose habits, and lick his hands, clean his tongue, and lick his clan and lick his clan and lick his hands clean with his tongue, and do and be all those other things you gave in detail, down to his being addicted to the practice of taking food according to rule at regular intervals up to even half a month. If he does all this, and the state of blissful attainment in conduct, in heart, and intellect have not been practiced by him, realized by him, then he is distant from samanaship, distant from brahmanaship. But from the time, O Kasapa, when a bhikshu has cultivated the heart of love that knows no anger, that knows no ill will, from the time when, by the destruction of the deadly intoxications, the lusts of the flesh, the lust after future life, and the defilements of delusion and ignorance, he dwells in that emancipation of heart, that emancipation of mind that is free from those intoxications, and that he, whilst yet in this visible world, has come to realize and know from that time, O Kasapa, is it that the bhikshu is called a samana, is called a brahmana. And if a man, O Kasapa, feed on potherbs, on wild rice, on navara seeds, or on any of those other things you gave in detail, down to fruits that are fallen of themselves, and the state of blissful attainment in conduct, in heart, and intellect, have not been practiced by him, realized by him, then is he distant from samanaship, distant from brahmanaship. But from the time, O Kasapa, when a bhikshu has cultivated the heart of love that knows no anger, that knows no ill will, from the time when, by the destruction of the deadly intoxications, the lust of the flesh, the lust after future life, and the defilements of delusion and ignorance, he dwells in that emancipation of heart, that emancipation of mind, that is free from those intoxications, and that he, whilst yet in this visible world, has come to realize and know, from that time, O Kasapa, is it that the bhikshu is called a samana, is called a brahmana. And if a man, O Kasapa, wear coarse hempen cloth, or carry out all in any of those other practices you gave in detail, down to bathing in water 3 times a day, and the state of blissful attainment in conduct, in heart, and intellect have not been practiced by him, realized by him, then is he distant from samanaship, distant from brahmanaship. But from the time, O Kasapa, when a bhikshu has cultivated the heart of love that knows no anger, that knows no ill will, from the time when, by the destruction of the deadly intoxications, the lust of the flesh, the lust after future life, the defilements of delusion and ignorance, he dwells in that emancipation of heart, that emancipation of mind, that is free from those intoxications, and that he, whilst yet in this visible world, has come to realize and know. From that time, O Kasapa, is it that the bhikshu is called a samana, is called a brahmana. And when he had thus spoken, Kasapa, the naked ascetic, said to the Blessed One, how hard then, Gotama, must samanaship be to gain? How hard must brahmanaship be? That, Kasapa, is a common saying in the world, that the life of a samana and of a brahmana is hard to lead. But if the very great hardness of that life depended merely on this asceticism, on the carrying out of any or all of those practices you have detailed, then it would not be fitting to say that the life of the samana of the brahmana was hard to lead. It would be quite possible for a householder, or for the son of a householder, or for anyone, down to the slave girl who carries the water jar, to say, let me now go naked, let me become of low habits, and so on through all the items of those 3 lists of yours. But since, Kasapa, quite apart from these matters, quite apart from all kinds of penance, the life is hard, very hard to lead, therefore is it that it is fitting to say, how hard must samanaship be to gain, how hard must brahmanaship be. For from the time, O Kasapa, when a bhikshu has cultivated the heart of love that knows no anger, that knows no ill will, from the time when, by the destruction of the deadly intoxications, the lust of the flesh, the lust after future life, and the defilements of delusion and ignorance, he dwells in that emancipation of heart, in that emancipation of mind, that is free from those intoxications, and that he, whilst yet in this visible world, has come to realize and know. From that time, O Kasapa, is it that the bhikshu is called a samana, is called a brahmana. And when he has thus spoken, Kasapa, the naked ascetic, said to the Blessed One, hard is it, Gotama, to know when a man is a samana, hard to know when a man is a brahmana. That, Kasapa, is a common saying in the world, that it is hard to know a samana, hard to know a brahmana. But if being a brahmana depended merely on this asceticism, on the carrying out of any or each of those practices you have detailed, then it would not be fitting to say that a samana is hard to recognize, a brahmana is hard to recognize. It would be quite possible for a householder, or for the son of a householder, or for anyone down to the slave girl who carries the water jar, to know. This man goes naked, or is of loose habits, or licks his fingers with his tongue, and so on through all the items of those 3 lists of yours. But since, Kasapa, quite apart from these matters, quite apart from all kinds of penance, it is hard to recognize a samana, hard to recognize a brahmana, therefore is it fitting to say, hard is it to know when a man is a samana, to know when a man is a brahmana. For from the time, O Kasapa, when a bhikshu has cultivated the heart of love that knows no anger, that knows no ill will, from the time when, by the destruction of the deadly intoxications, the lust of the flesh, the lust after future life, and the defilements of delusion and ignorance, He dwells in that emancipation of heart, in that emancipation of mind that is free from those intoxications, and that he, whilst yet in this visible world, has come to realize and know. From that time, O Kassapa, is it that the bhikshu is called a samana, is called a brahmana. And when he had thus spoken, Kassapa the naked ascetic said to the Blessed One, what then, Gotama, is that blissful attainment in conduct, in heart, and in mind? Here in Kassapa, a Tathagata arises in the world, a worthy one, perfectly enlightened, endowed with clear knowledge and conduct, accomplished, a knower of the world, unsurpassed trainer of men to be tamed, teacher of angels and men, enlightened and exalted. Having realized by his own direct knowledge this world with its angels, its Maras, and its Brahmas, this generation with its recluses and Brahmins, its rulers and people, he makes it known to others. He teaches the Dharma that is benevolent in the beginning, benevolent in the middle, and benevolent in the end. Possessing meaning and phrasing, he reveals the holy life that is fully complete and purified. A householder or a householder's son or one born into some other family hears the Dharma. Having heard the Dharma, he gains faith in the Tathagata. Endowed with such faith, he reflects, the household life is crowded, a path of dust. Going forth is like the open air. It is not easy for one dwelling at home to lead the perfectly complete, perfectly purified holy life, bright as a polished conch. Let me then shave off my hair and beard, put on saffron robes, and go forth from home to homelessness. After some time, he abandons his accumulation of wealth, be it large or small. He abandons his circle of relatives, be it large or small. He shaves off his hair and beard and puts on saffron robes and goes forth from home to homelessness. When he has thus gone forth, he lives restrained by the restraint of the patimoksha, possessed of proper behavior and resort. Having taken up the rules of training, he trains himself in them, seeing danger in the slightest faults. He comes to be endowed with wholesome bodily and verbal action. His livelihood is purified, and he is possessed of conduct. He guards the doors of his sense faculties, is endowed with mindfulness and clear comprehension, and is content. And how Kassapa is the bhikshu possessed of virtuous discipline? Here in Kassapa, having abandoned the destruction of life, the bhikshu abstains from the destruction of life. He has laid down the rod and weapon and dwells conscientious, full of kindness, sympathetic for the well-being of all living beings. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. Having abandoned taking what is not given, he abstains from taking what is not given. Accepting and expecting only what is given, he lives in honesty with a pure mind. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. Having abandoned in celibacy, he leads the holy life of celibacy. He dwells aloof and abstains from the vulgar practice of sexual intercourse. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. Having abandoned false speech, he abstains from falsehood. He speaks only the truth. He lives devoted to truth, trustworthy and reliable. He does not deceive anyone in the world. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. Having abandoned slander, he abstains from slander. He does not repeat elsewhere what he has heard here in order to divide others from the people here, nor does he repeat here what he has heard elsewhere in order to divide these from the people there. Thus he is a reconciler of those who are divided and a promoter of friendships. Rejoicing, delighting, and exulting in concord, he speaks only words that are conducive to concord. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. Having abandoned harsh speech, he abstains from harsh speech. He speaks only such words as are gentle, pleasing to the ear, endearing, going to the heart, polite, amiable, and agreeable to the many folk. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. Having abandoned idle chatter, he abstains from idle chatter. He speaks at the right time, speaks what is factual and beneficial, speaks on the Dharma and the discipline. His words are worth treasuring. They are timely backed by reasons measured and connected by the benevolent. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from damaging seed and plant life. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He eats only in one part of the day, refraining from food at night and from eating at improper times. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from dancing, singing, instrumental music, and from witnessing unsuitable shows. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in discipline. He abstains from wearing garlands, embellishing himself with scents, and beautifying himself with unguents. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from high and luxurious beds and seats. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from accepting gold and silver. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from accepting uncooked grain, raw meat, women and girls, male and female slaves, goats and sheep, fowl and swine, elephants, cattle, horses, and mares. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from accepting fields and lands. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from running messages and errands. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from buying and selling. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from dealing with false weights, false metals, and false measures. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from crooked ways of bribery, deception, and fraud. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. He abstains from mutilating, executing, imprisoning, robbery, plunder, and violence. This Kassapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on food offered by the faithful, continually cause damage to seed and plant life, to plants propagated from fruits, stems, joints, buds, and seeds, he abstains from damaging seed and plant life. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on food offered by the faithful, enjoy the utilization of stored up treasures, such as stored up food, drinks, garments, vehicles, bedding, scents, and comestibles, he abstains from the utilization of stored up treasures. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, attend unsuitable shows, such as shows featuring dancing, singing, or instrumental music, theatrical performances, narrations of legends, music played by hand-clapping cymbals and drums, picture houses, acrobatic performances, combats of elephants, horses, buffaloes, bulls, goats, rams, cocks, and quails, stick fights, boxing and wrestling, sham fights, roll calls, battle arrays, and regimental reviews. He abstains from attending such unsuitable shows. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmanas, whilst living on food offered by the faithful, indulge in the following games and recreations: Atapada, Dasapada, Akasha, Pariharapata, Santika, Kalika, Gatika, Salakahata, Aka, Pangachira, Vankaka, Mokshachika, Chingulika, Patalaka, Rataka, Danaka, Aksharika, Manasika, Yatavaja. He abstains from such games that are a basis for negligence. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on food offered by the faithful, enjoy the utilization of high and luxurious beds and seats, such as spacious couches, thrones with animal figures carved on the supports, long-haired coverlets, multicolored patchwork coverlets, white woolen coverlets embroidered with flowers, quilt stuffed with cotton, woolen coverlets embroidered with animal figures, woolen coverlets with hair on both sides or on one side, bedspreads embroidered with gems, silk coverlets, dance hall carpets, elephant, horse, or chariot rugs, rugs of antelope skins, choice spreads made of Kadali deer hides, spreads with red awnings overhead, couches with red cushions for head and feet. He abstains from the utilization of such high and luxurious beds and seats. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, enjoy the utilization of such devices for embellishing and beautifying themselves as the following: rubbing scented powders into the body, massaging with oils, bathing in perfumed water, kneading the limbs, mirrors, ointments, garlands, scents, unguents, face powders, makeup, bracelets, headbands, decorated walking sticks, ornamented medicine tubes, rapiers, soleil shades, embroidered sandals, turbans, diadems, yak-tail whisks, and long fringed white robes. He abstains from the utilization of such devices for embellishment and beautification. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, engage in frivolous chatter, such as talk about kings, thieves, and ministers of state, talk about armies, dangers, and wars, talk about food, drink, garments, and lodgings, talk about garlands and scents, talk about relations, vehicles, villages, towns, cities, and countries, talk about women and talk about heroes, street talk and talk by the well, talk about those departed days gone by, rambling chit-chat, speculations about the world and about the sea, talk about gain and loss. He abstains from such frivolous chatter. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, engage in wrangling, argumentation, saying to one another, "You don't understand this doctrine and discipline. It is I who understand this doctrine and discipline. How can you understand this doctrine and discipline? You're practicing the wrong way. I'm practicing the right way. I'm being consistent. You're inconsistent. What should have been said first, you said last. What should have been said last, you said first. What you took so long to think out has been confuted. Your doctrine has been refuted. You're defeated. Go try to save your doctrine and disentangle yourself now if you can." He abstains from such wrangling argumentation. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmins, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, engage in running messages and errands for kings, ministers of state, kachis, Brahmins, householders, or youths who command them, "Go here, go there, take this, bring that from there." He abstains from running such messages and errands. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, engage in scheming, talking, hinting, belittling others, and pursuing gain with gain. He abstains from such kinds of scheming and talking. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by wrong means of livelihood by such base arts as prophesying long life, prosperity, and additionally, or the reverse, from the marks on a person's limbs, hands, feet, and additionally, divining by means of omens and signs, making auguries on the basis of thunderbolts and celestial portents, interpreting ominous dreams, telling fortunes from marks on the body, making auguries from the marks on cloth gnawed by mice, offering fire oblations, offering oblations from a ladle, offering oblations of husks, rice powder, rice grains, ghee, and oil to the angels, offering oblations from the mouth, offering blood offerings to the angels, making predictions based on the fingertips, determining whether the site for a proposed house or garden is propitious or not, making predictions for officers of state, laying demons in the cemetery, laying ghosts, knowledge of charms to be pronounced by one living in an earthen house, snake charming, the poison craft, scorpion craft, rat craft, bird craft, crow craft, foretelling the number of years that a man has to live, reciting charms to give protection from arrows, reciting charms to understand the language of animals. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by wrong means of livelihood by such debased arts as interpreting the significance of the color, shape, and other features of the following items to determine whether they portend fortune or misfortune for their owners. Gems, garments, staffs, swords, spears, arrows, bows, other weapons, women, men, boys, girls, slaves, slave women, elephants, horses, buffaloes, bulls, cows, goats, rams, fowls, quails, lizards, earrings, or house gables, tortoises, and other animals. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by wrong means of livelihood by such debased arts as making predictions to the effect that the king will march forth, the king will retreat, our king will attack, the enemy king will retreat, the enemy king will attack, and our king will retreat, our king will triumph, the enemy king will be defeated, the enemy king will triumph, and our king will be defeated. Thus there will be the victory for one and defeat for the other. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by wrong means of livelihood by such debased arts as predicting there will be an eclipse of the moon, an eclipse of the soleil, an eclipse of a constellation. The soleil and the moon will go on their proper courses. There will be an aberration of the soleil and moon. The constellations will go on their proper courses. There will be an aberration of a constellation. There will be a fall of meteors. There will be a sky blaze. There will be an earthquake. There will be an earth roar. There will be a rising and setting, a darkening and brightening of the moon, soleil, and constellations. Such will be the result of the moon's eclipse, such the result of the soleil's eclipse, and so on down to such will be the result of the rising and setting, darkening and brightening of the moon, soleil, and constellations. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by wrong means of livelihood by such debased arts as predicting there will be an abundant rain, there will be a drought, there will be a benevolent harvest, there will be famine, there will be security, there will be danger, there will be sickness, there will be health. Or they earn their living by accounting, computation, calculation, or the composing of poetry and speculation about the world. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by wrong means of livelihood by such base arts as arranging auspicious dates for marriages, both those in which the bride is brought home and those in which she is sent out, arranging auspicious dates for betrothals and divorces, arranging auspicious dates for the accumulation or expenditure of money, reciting charms to make people lucky or unlucky, rejuvenating the fetuses of abortive women, reciting spells to bind a man's tongue, to paralyze his jaws, to make him lose control over his hands, or to bring on deafness, obtaining auricular answers to questions by means of a mirror, a girl, or an angel, worshipping the soleil, worshipping Mahabrahma, bringing forth flames from the mouth, invoking the angel of luck. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. This kasapa pertains to his perfection and virtuous discipline. Whereas some recluses and Brahmas, whilst living on the food offered by the faithful, earn their living by wrong means of livelihood by such debased arts as promising gifts to the deities in return for favors, fulfilling such promises, demonology, reciting spells after entering an earthen house, inciting virility and impotence, preparing for and consecrating sites for a house, giving ceremonial mouthwashes and ceremonial bathing, offering offertory fires, administering emetics, purgatives, expectorants, and phlegmagogues, administering medicines through the ear and through the nose, administering ointments and counter ointments, practicing fine surgery on the eyes and ears, practicing general surgery on the body, practicing as a children's doctor. He abstains from such wrong means of livelihood, from such debased arts. This kasapa pertains to his perfection in virtuous discipline. Kasapa. The bhikshu who is thus possessed of virtuous discipline sees no danger anywhere in regards to his restraint by virtuous discipline. Just as a head anointed warrior, noble warrior who has defeated his enemies sees no danger anywhere from his enemies, so the bhikshu who is thus possessed of virtuous discipline sees no danger anywhere in regard to his restraint by virtuous discipline. Endowed with this noble aggregate of virtuous discipline, he experiences within himself a blameless happiness. In this way, Kasapa, the bhikshu, is possessed of virtuous discipline. This Kasapa is that perfection in virtuous discipline. And how Kasapa does the bhikshu guard the doors of his sense faculties? Herein, Kasapa, having seen a form of the eye, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the eye, evil, unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the eye, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the eye. Having heard a sound with the ear, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the ear, evil and unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the ear, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the ear. Having smelled an odor with the nose, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the nose, evil and unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the nose, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the nose. Having tasted a flavor with the tongue, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the tongue, evil and unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the tongue, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the tongue. Having touched a tangible object with the body, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the body, evil and unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the body, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the body. Having cognized a mind with the mind, the bhikshu does not grasp at the sign or the details, since if he were to dwell without restraint over the faculty of the mind, evil and unwholesome states such as covetousness and grief might assail him. He practices restraint, guards the faculty of the mind, and achieves restraint over the faculty of the mind. Endowed with his noble restraint of the sense faculties, he experiences within himself an unblemished happiness. In this way, Kassapa the bhikshu guards the doors of the sense faculties. And how Kassapa is the bhikshu endowed with mindfulness and clear comprehension. Herein, Kassapa, in going forward and returning, the bhikshu acts with clear comprehension. In looking ahead and looking aside, he acts with clear comprehension. In bending and stretching the limbs, he acts with clear comprehension. In wearing his robes and cloaking and utilizing his alms bowl, he acts with clear comprehension. In eating, drinking, chewing, and tasting, he acts with clear comprehension. In defecating and urinating, he acts with clear comprehension. In going, standing, sitting, lying down, waking, speaking, and remaining silent, he acts with clear comprehension. In this way, Kassapa the bhikshu is endowed with mindfulness and clear comprehension. And how Kassapa is the bhikshu content. Herein, Kassapa a bhikshu is content with robes to protect his body and alms food to sustain his belly. Wherever he goes, he sets out, taking only his requisites along with him. Just as a bird, wherever it goes, flies with its wings and as its only burden. In the same way, a bhikshu is content with the robes to protect his body and alms food to sustain his belly. Wherever he goes, he sets out, taking only his requisites along with him. In this way, Kassapa the bhikshu is content. Endowed with this noble aggregative virtuous discipline, this noble restraint over the sense faculties, this noble mindfulness and clear comprehension, and this noble contentment, he resorts to a secluded dwelling, a forest, the foot of a tree, a mountain, a glen, a hillside cave, a cremation ground, a jungle grove, the open air, a heap of straw. After returning from his alms round, following his meals, he sits down, crosses his legs, holds his body erect, and sets up mindfulness before him. Having abandoned covetousness for the world, he dwells with a mind free from covetousness. He purifies his mind from covetousness. Having abandoned ill will and hatred, he dwells with a benevolent mind, sympathetic for the well-being of all living beings. He purifies his mind from ill will and hatred. Having abandoned dullness and drowsiness, he dwells perceiving light, mindful and clearly comprehending. He purifies his mind from dullness and drowsiness. Having abandoned restlessness and worry, he dwells at ease within himself. With a peaceful mind, he purifies his mind from restlessness and worry. Having abandoned doubt, he dwells as one who has passed beyond doubt, unperplexed about wholesome states. Unperplexed about wholesome states, he purifies his mind from doubt. Kassapa, suppose a man were to take a loan and apply it to his business, and his business were to succeed, so that he could pay back his old debts and would have enough money left over to maintain a wife. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. Again, Kassapa, suppose a man were to become sick, afflicted, gravely ill, so that he could not enjoy his food, and his strength would decline. After some time, he would recover from that illness and would enjoy his food and regain his bodily strength. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. Again, Kassapa, suppose a man were locked up in a prison. After some time, he would be released from prison, safe and secure, with no loss of his possessions. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. Again, Kassapa, suppose a man were a slave without independence, subservient to others, unable to go where he wants. After some time, he would be released from slavery and gain his independence. He would no longer be subservient to others, but a free man to go where he wants. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. Again, Kassapa, suppose a man with wealth and possessions were traveling along a desert road where food was scarce and dangers were many. After some time, he would cross over the desert and arrive safely at a village which is safe and free from danger. He would reflect on this, and as a result, he would become glad and experience joy. In the same way, Kassapa, when a bhikshu sees that these 5 hindrances are unabandoned within himself, he regards it as a debt, as a sickness, as confinement in prison, as slavery, as a desert road. But when he sees that these 5 hindrances have been abandoned within himself, he regards that as freedom from debt, as benevolent health, as release from prison, as freedom from slavery, as a place of safety. When he sees that these 5 hindrances have been abandoned within himself, gladness arises. When he is glad, rapture arises. When his mind is filled with rapture, his body becomes tranquil. Tranquil in body, he experiences happiness. Being happy, his mind becomes concentrated. Quite secluded from such pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, he enters in and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought, and filled with the rapture and happiness born of seclusion. This pertains to his perfection of mind. Further, Kasapa, with the subsiding of applied and sustained thought, the bhikshu enters and dwells in the second jhana, which is accompanied by internal confidence and unification of mind, is without applied and sustained thought, and is filled with a raptured happiness born of concentration. This too pertains to his perfection in mind. Further, Kasapa, with the fading away of rapture, the bhikshu dwells in equanimity, mindful and clearly comprehending, and experiences happiness with the body. Thus he enters and dwells in the third jhana, of which the noble ones desire. He dwells happily with equanimity and mindfulness. This too pertains to his perfection in mind. Further, Kasapa, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous passing away of joy and grief, the bhikshu enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which is neither pleasant nor painful, and contains mindfulness fully purified by equanimity. This too pertains to his perfection in mind. This Kasapa is his perfection in mind. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to knowledge and vision. He understands thus: this is my body, having material form, composed of the 4 primary elements, originating from far and more, built up out of rice and gruel, impermanent, subject to rubbing and pressing, to dissolution and dispersion, and this is my consciousness, supported by it, and bound up with it. This pertains to his perfection and wisdom. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to create a mind-made body. From this body he creates another body, having material form, mind-made, complete in all its parts, not lacking any faculties. This too pertains to his perfection and wisdom. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the modes of supernormal power. He exercises the various modes of supernormal power. Having been one, he becomes many, and having been many, he becomes one. He appears and vanishes. He goes unimpeded through walls, ramparts, and mountains, as if through space. He dives in and out of the earth as if it were water. He walks on water without sinking, as if it were earth. Sitting cross-legged, he travels through space like a winged bird. With his hand, he touches and strokes the soleil and the moon, so mighty and powerful. He exercises mastery over the body, as distant as the Brahma world. This too pertains to his perfection and wisdom. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the holy ear element. With the holy ear element, which is purified and surpasses the human, he hears both kinds of sound, the holy and the human, those which are distant and those which are near. This too pertains to his perfection and wisdom. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the knowledge of encompassing the minds of others. He understands the minds of other beings and persons, having encompassed them with his own mind. He understands the mind with lust as a mind with lust, and a mind without lust as a mind without lust. He understands the mind with hatred as a mind with hatred, and a mind without hatred as a mind without hatred. He understands the mind with delusion as a mind with delusion, and a mind without delusion as a mind without delusion. He understands the contracted mind as a contracted mind, and a distracted mind as a distracted mind. He understands an exalted mind as an exalted mind, and an unexalted mind as an unexalted mind. He understands a surpassable mind as a surpassable mind, and an unsurpassable mind as an unsurpassable mind. He understands a concentrated mind as a concentrated mind, and an unconcentrated mind as an unconcentrated mind. He understands a liberated mind as a liberated mind, and an unliberated mind as an unliberated mind. This too pertains to his perfection and wisdom. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to knowledge of recollecting past lives. He recollects his numerous past lives, that is, 1 birth, 2 births, 3, 4, or 5 births, 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 births, 100 births, 1,000 births, 100,000 births. Many eons of world contraction, many eons of world expansion, many eons of world contraction and expansion, recollecting. There I had such a name, but belonged to such a clan, had such an appearance, such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such my span of life. Passing away from that state, I re-arose there. There too I had such a name, belonged to such a clan, had such an appearance, such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such my span of life. Passing away from that state, I re-arose here. Thus he recollects his numerous past lives and their modes and their details. This too pertains to his perfection and wisdom. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, wieldy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to the knowledge of the passing away and reappearance of beings. With the holy eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, he sees beings passing away and reappearing, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate, and he understands how beings fare according to their karma. Thus, these beings who were endowed with bad conduct of body, speech, and mind, who reviled the noble ones, who held wrong views, and undertook actions governed by wrong views, with the breakup of the body after death, have reappeared in the plane of misery, with the bad destinations, the lower realms, and hell. But these beings who were endowed with no benevolent conduct of body, speech, and mind, who did not revile the noble ones, held right views, and undertook actions governed by right views, with the breakup of the body after death, have reappeared in the benevolent destinations in the heavenly world. Thus, with the holy eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, he sees beings passing away and reappearing, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate, and he understands how beings fare in accordance with their karma. This too pertains to his perfection in wisdom. When his mind is thus concentrated, pure and bright, unblemished, free from defects, malleable, willy, steady, and attained to imperturbability, he directs and inclines it to knowledge of the destruction of the cankers. He understands as it truly is, this is suffering. He understands as it truly is, this is the origin of suffering. He understands as it truly is, this is the cessation of suffering. He understands as it truly is, this is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. He understands as it truly is, these are the cankers. He understands as it truly is, this is the origin of the cankers. He understands as it truly is, this is the cessation of the cankers. He understands as it truly is, this is the way leading to the cessation of the cankers. Knowing and seeing thus, his mind is liberated from the canker of sexual desire, from the canker of existence, from the canker of ignorance. When it is liberated, the knowledge arises, it is liberated. He understands, destroyed his birth, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is nothing further beyond this. This too pertains to his perfection and wisdom. This Kasapa is his perfection and wisdom, and there is no other state of blissful attainment in conduct and heart and mind which is Kasapa higher and sweeter than this. Now there are some recluses and Brahmas Kasapa who lay emphasis on conduct. They speak in various ways in honor of virtue, but so much as regards the holy noble, the highest conduct, I am aware of no one who is equal to myself, much less superior, and it is I who have gone the furthest therein, that is, in the highest conduct of the path. There are some recluses and Brahmas Kasapa who lay emphasis on self-affliction and scrupulous care of others. They speak in various ways in honor of self-torture and of austere scrupulousness. But so much as regards the truly noblest, the highest sort of self-mortification, self-affliction, and scrupulous regard for others, I am aware of no one else who is equal to myself, much less superior. And it is I who have gone the furthest therein, that is, in the highest sort of scrupulousness regard, the sort of scrupulous regard for others. There are some recluses and Brahmas Kasapa who lay emphasis on intelligence. They speak in various ways in honor of intelligence. But so much as regards the truly noblest, the highest intelligence, I am aware of no one who is equal to myself, much less superior. And it is I who have gone the farthest therein, that is, in the highest wisdom of the path. There are some recluses and Brahmas Kasapa who lay emphasis on emancipation. They speak in various ways in honor of emancipation, but so much as regards the truly noblest, the highest emancipation, I am aware of no one else who is equal to myself, much less superior. And it is I who have gone the furthest therein, that is, in the most complete emancipation of the path. Now it may well be, Kasapa, that the recluses of adverse schools may say, the Samana Gotama utters forth a lion's roar, but it is in solitude that he roars, not where men are assembled. Then should they be answered, say not so, the Samana Gotama utters his lion's roar, and that too in the assemblies where men congregate. And it may well be, Kasapa, that the recluses of adverse schools should thus in succession raise each of the following objections. But it is not in full confidence that he roars, but men put no questions to him. But even when questioned, he cannot answer. But even when he answers, he gives no satisfaction by his exposition of the problem put. But men do not hold his opinion worthy to be listened to. But even when men listen to his word, they experience no conviction therefrom. But even when convinced, men give no outward sign of their faith. But even when they give such outward sign, they arrive not at the truth. But even if when they arrive at the truth, they cannot carry it out. Then in each such case, Kasapa, they should be answered as before, until the answer runs, say not so, for the Samana Gotama both utters forth his lion's roar, and that too in assemblies where men congregate, and in full confidence in the justice of his claim, and men put their questions to him on that. And on being questioned, he expounds the problem put, and by his exposition thereof, satisfaction arises in the hearts and in their hearts, and they hold it worthy to listen to his word, and In listening to it, they experience conviction, and being convinced, they give outward signs thereof, and they penetrate even to the truth, to the Dhamma, and having grasped it, they are able to carry the Dhamma out. I was staying once, Kasapa, at Rajagaha on the hill called the Vulture's Peak, and there a follower of the same mode of life as yours, by name Negroda, asked me a question about the higher forms of austere scrupulousness of life. And having been thus questioned, I expounded the problem put. And when I had thus answered what he asked, he was well pleased, as if with a great joy. And who, sir, on hearing the doctrine of the Exalted One, would not be well pleased, as if with a great joy? I also, who have now heard the doctrine of the Exalted One, am not thus well pleased, even as if it with a great joy. Most excellent Master, are the words of thy mouth most excellent, just as if a man were to set up what has been thrown down, or were to reveal that which has been hidden away, or were to point out the right road to him who has gone astray, or to bring a lamp into the darkness, so that those who have eyes could see external forms. Just even so, Master, has the Dharma been made known to me in many a figure by the Exalted One. And I, even I, betake myself as my guide to the Exalted One, and to the Dharma, and to the Sangha. I would fain, Master, renounce the world under the Exalted One. I would fain be admitted to his Sangha. Whosoever, Kasapa, having formerly been a member of another school, wishes to renounce the world and receive an initiation in this doctrine and discipline, he remains in probation for 4 months. And at the end of the 4 months, the brethren, exalted in spirit, give him initiation and receive him into the Sangha, raising him up into the state of a bhikshu. But nevertheless, I recognize in such cases the distinction there may be between individuals. Since, Master, for 4 months probation is the regular custom, I too then will remain on probation for that time. Then let the brethren, exalted in spirit, give me initiation and raise me up into the state of a bhikshu. Kasapa, the naked ascetic, received initiation and was admitted to the membership of the Sangha under the Exalted One, and from immediately after his initiation, the Venerable Kasapa remained alone and separate, earnest, zealous, and master of himself. And ere long he attained to that supreme goal, for the sake of which clansmen go forth from the household life into the homeless state. Yea, that supreme goal did he by himself, and whilst yet in this visible world, bring himself to the knowledge of, and continue to realize and to see face to face. And he became sure that rebirth was at an end for him, that the higher life had been fulfilled, that everything that should have been done had been accomplished, and that after this present life there would be no beyond. And so the Venerable Kasapa became yet another amongst the Arahats. The Jaravaga. Dhammapada. Jaravaga. Onse. When this world is ever ablaze, why this laughter? Why this jubilation? Shrouded in darkness, will you not see the light? Behold this body of a painted image, a mass of heaped up sores, infirm, full of hankering, of which nothing is lasting or stable. Fully worn out is this body, a nest of disease and fragile. This foul mass breaks up, for death is the end of life. These dove-colored bones are like gourds that lie scattered about in autumn. Having seen them, how can one seek delight? This city body is built of bones, plastered with flesh and blood. Within are decay and death, pride and jealousy. Even gorgeous royal chariots wear out, and indeed this body too wears out. But the Dharma of the benevolent does not age, thus the benevolent make it known to the benevolent. The man of little learning grows old like a bull. He grows only in bulk, but his wisdom does not grow. Through many a birth in samsara have I wandered in vain, seeking the builder of this house of life. Repeated birth is indeed suffering. O house builder, you are seen. You will not build this house again, for your rafters are broken and your ridgepole shattered. My mind has reached the unconditioned. I have attained the destruction of craving. Those who in youth have not led the holy life, or have failed to acquire wealth, language like old cranes in the pond without fish. Those who in youth have not led the holy life, Those who in youth have not led the holy life, or have failed to acquire wealth, lie sighing over the past like worn-out arrows shot from a bow. Gospels, Matthew 21 a 22. As they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and at once you will find a donkey tied there, with her colt by her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, say that the master needs them, and he will send them right away." This took place to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. "Say to daughter Zion, see, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey, and on a colt, the foal of a donkey." The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and placed their cloaks on them for Jesus to sit on. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, whilst others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and those that followed shouted, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes in the name of God! Hosanna in the highest heaven!" When Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred and asked, "Who is this?" The crowds answered, "This is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee." Jesus entered the temple courts and drove out all who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. "It is written," he said, "My house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers." The blind and the lame came to him at the temple, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and the teachers of the law saw the wonderful things he did, and the children shouting in the temple courts, "Hosanna to the Son of David," they were indignant. "Do you hear that what these children are saying?" they asked him. "Yes," replied Jesus. "Have you not read? From the lips of children and infants you, God, have called forth your praise." And he left them and went out of the city to Bethany, where he spent the night. Early in the matin, as Jesus was on his way back to the city, he was hungry. Seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to it, but found nothing on it except leaves. Then he said to it, "May you never bear fruit again." Immediately the tree withered. When the disciples saw this, they were amazed. How did the fig tree wither so quickly?" they asked. Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to the fig tree, but also you can say to this mountain, 'Go, throw yourself into the sea,' and it will be done. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer." Jesus entered the temple courts, and whilst he was teaching, the chief priests and the elders of the people came to him. "By what authority are you doing these things?" they asked, "and who gave you this authority?" Jesus replied, "I will also ask you one question. If you answer me, I will tell you by what authority I am doing these things. John's baptism, where did it come from? Was it from heaven or of human origin?" They discussed it amongst themselves and said, "If we say from heaven, he will say, 'Why then didn't you believe him?' But if we say of human origin, we are afraid of the people, for they all hold that John was a prophet." So they answered Jesus, "We don't know." Then he said, "Neither will I tell you by what authority I am doing these things. What do you think? There was a man who had 2 sons. He went to the first and said, 'Son, go and work today in the vineyard.' 'I will not,' he answered, but later he changed his mind and went. Then the father went to the other son and said the same thing. He answered, 'I will, sir.' But he did not go. Which of the 2 did what his father wanted?" "The first," they answered. Jesus said to them, "Truly I tell you, the tax collectors and the prostitutes are entering the sovereignty of God ahead of you. For John came to you to show you the way of righteousness, and you did not believe him, but the tax collectors and the prostitutes did. And even after you saw this, you did not repent and believe him." Listen to another parable. There was a landowner who planted a vineyard. He put a wall around it, dug a winepress in it, and built a watchtower. Then he rented the vineyard to some agriculturalists and moved to another place. When the harvest time approached, he sent his servants to the tenants to collect his fruit. The tenants seized the servants. They beat one, killed another, and stoned a third. Then he sent other servants to them further than the first time, and the tenants treated them the same way. Last of all, he sent his son to them. "They will respect my son," he said. But when the tenants saw the son, they said to each other, "This is the heir. Come, let's kill him and take his inheritance." So they took him and threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. Therefore, when the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants? "He will bring those wretches to a wretched end," they replied, "and he will rent the vineyard to other tenants who will give him his share of the crop at harvest time." Jesus said to them, Have you never read in the scriptures, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone? God has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Therefore I tell you that the sovereignty of God will be taken away from you and given to a people who will produce its fruit. Anyone who falls on this stone will be broken to portions. Anyone on whom it falls will be crushed. When the chief priests and the Pharisees heard Jesus' parable, they knew he was talking about them. They looked for a way to arrest him, but they were afraid of the crowd because the people held that he was a prophet. Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, The sovereignty of heaven is like a king who prepared a wedding banquet for his son. He sent his servants to those who had been invited to the banquet to tell them to come, but they refused to come. Then he sent some further servants and said, Tell those who have been invited that I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and fatted cattle have been butchered, and everything is ready. Come to the wedding banquet. But they paid no attention and went off, one to his field, another to his business. The rest seized the servants, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his army and destroyed those murderers and burned their city. Then he said to the servants, The wedding banquet is ready, but those I invited did not deserve to come. So go to the street corners and invite to the banquet anyone you find. So the servants went out into the streets and gathered all the people they could find, the bad as well as the benevolent, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing wedding clothes. He asked, How did you get in here without wedding clothes, friend? The man was speechless. Then the king told the attendants, Tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are invited, but few are chosen. Then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap him in his words. They sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians. Teacher, they said, we know that you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? But Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, You hypocrites, why are you trying to entrap me? Show me the coin utilized for paying the tax. They brought him a denarius. And he asked them, Whose image is this and whose inscription? Caesar's, they replied. Then he said to them, So give back to Caesar that which is Caesar's, and go to God, and to God what is God's. When they heard this, they were amazed, so they left him and went away. That same day the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him with a question. Teacher, they said, Moshe told us that if a man dies without having children, his brother must marry the widow and raise up offspring for him. Now there were 7 brothers amongst us. The first one married and died, and since he had no children, he left his wife to his brother. The same thing happened to the second and third brother, right on down to the 7th. Finally, the woman died. Now then, at the resurrection, whose wife will she be of the 7, since all of them were married to her? Jesus replied, You are in error because you do not know the scriptures or the power of God. At the resurrection, people will neither marry nor be given in marriage, but they will be like the angels in heaven. But about the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what God said to you? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzhak, and the God of Yaakov. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. When the crowds heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus replied, Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. Whilst the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them, What do you think about the Messiah? Whose son is he? The son of David, they replied. He said to them, How is it then that David, speaking by the Spirit, calls him Master? For he says, God said to my Master, Sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. If then David calls him Master, how can he be his son? No one could say a word in reply, and from that day on no one dared to ask him any further questions. Quran, Surah Hud, número 11. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Alif Lam Ra. This is a book with verses basic or fundamental of established meaning, further explained in detail, from one who is wise and well acquainted with all things. It teacheth that ye should worship none but Allah. Say, verily I am sent unto you from Allah to warn and to bring glad tidings, and to preach thus, seek ye the forgiveness of your Lord, and turn to Allah in repentance, that Allah may grant you enjoyment, benevolent and true, for a term appointed, and bestow Allah's abounding grace on all who abound in merit. But if ye turn away, then I fear for you the penalty of a great day. To Allah is your return, and Allah hath power over all things. Behold, they fold up their hearts, that they may lie hid from Allah. Even when they cover themselves with their garments, Allah knoweth what they conceal and what they reveal, for Allah knoweth well the inmost secrets of the hearts. There is no moving creature on earth, but its sustenance dependeth on Allah. Allah knoweth the time and place of its definite abode, and its temporary deposit. All is in a clear record. Allah it is who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and Allah's throne was over the waters, that Allah might try you, which of you is best in conduct. But if thou wert to say to them, ye shall indeed be raised up after death, the unbelievers would be sure to say, this is nothing but obvious sorcery. If we delay the penalty for them for a definite term, they are sure to say, what keeps it back? On the day it actually reaches them, nothing will turn it away from them, and they will be completely encircled by that which they used to mock at. If we give man a test of mercy from ourselves, and then withdraw it from him, behold, he is in despair and falls into blasphemy. But if we give him a taste of our favors after adversity hath touched him, he is sure to say, all evil has departed from me. Behold, he falls into exultation and pride. Not so do those who show patience and constancy and work righteousness. For them is forgiveness of sins and a great reward. Perchance thou mayest feel the inclination to give up a part of what is revealed unto thee, and thy heart feeleth straitened, lest they say, why is not a treasure sent down unto him, or why does not an angel come down with him? But thou art there only to warn, it is Allah that arrangeth all affairs. Or they may say, he forged it. Say, bring ye then 10 surahs forged like unto it, and call to your aid whomsoever ye can, other than Allah, if ye speak the truth. If then they, your false deities, answer not your call, know that this revelation is sent down replete with the knowledge of Allah, and that there is none other deity but Allah. Will ye even then submit to Islam? Those who desire the life of the present and its glitter, to them we shall pay the price of their deeds therein without diminution. They are those for whom there is nothing in the hereafter but the fire. Vain are the desires they frame therein, and of no effect, and the deeds are the deeds that they do. Can they be like those who accept a clear sign from their Lord, and whom a witness from Allah doth teach, as did the book of Moshe before it, a guide and a mercy? They believe therein, but those of the sects that reject it, the fire will be their promised meeting place. Be not then in doubt thereon, for it is the truth from thy Lord. Yet many amongst men do not believe. Who doth further wrong than those who invent a lie against Allah? They will be turned back to the presence of their Lord, and the witnesses will say, these are the ones who lied against their Lord. Behold, the curse of Allah is on those who do wrong. Those who would hinder men from the path of Allah and would seek in it something crooked, these were they who denied the hereafter. They will in no wise frustrate Allah's design on earth, nor have they protectors besides Allah. Their penalty will be doubled. They lost the power to hear, and they did not see. They are the ones who have lost their own souls, and the fancies they invented have left them in the lurch. Without a doubt, these are the very ones who will lose most in the hereafter. But those who believe and work righteousness and humble themselves before their Lord, they will be companions of the gardens to dwell therein for aye. These two kinds of men may be compared to the blind and deaf, and those who can see and hear well. Are they equal when compared? Will ye not then take heed? We sent Noah to his people with a mission. I have come to you with a clear warning, that ye serve none but Allah. Verily I do fear for you the penalty of a grievous day. But the chiefs of the unbelievers amongst his people said, we see in thee nothing but a man like ourselves, nor do we see that any follow thee but the meanest amongst us, in judgment immature. Nor do we see in you all any merit above us. In fact, we think ye are liars. He said, O my people, see if it be that I have a clear sign from my Lord, and that Allah hath sent mercy unto me from Allah's own presence, but that the mercy hath been obscured from your sight. Shall we compel you to accept it when ye are averse to it? And O my people, I ask you for no wealth in return. My reward is from none but Allah. But I will not drive away in contempt those who believe, for verily they are to meet their Lord, and ye I see are the ignorant ones. And O my people, who would help me against Allah if I drove them away? Will ye not then take heed? I tell you not that with me are the treasures of Allah, nor do I know what is hidden, nor claim I to be an angel, nor yet do I say of those whom your eyes do despise that Allah will not grant them all that is benevolent. Allah knoweth best what is in their souls. I should, if I did, indeed be a wrongdoer. They said, O Noach, thou hast disputed with us, and much hast thou prolonged the dispute with us. Now bring upon us what thou threatenest with, if thou speakest the truth. He said, Truly Allah will bring it on you if Allah wills, and then you will not be able to frustrate it. Of no benefit will be my counsel to you, much as I desire to give you benevolent counsel. If it be that Allah willeth to leave you astray, Allah is your Lord, and to Allah will ye return. Or do they say, He has forged it? Say, if I had forged it, on me were my sin, and I am free of the sins of which ye are guilty. It was revealed to Noach, none of thy people will believe except those who have believed already. So grieve no longer over their evil deeds, but construct an ark under our eyes in our inspiration, and address me no further on behalf of those who are in sin, for they are about to be overwhelmed in the flood. Forthwith he starts constructing the ark. Every time that the chiefs of his people passed by him, they threw ridicule on him. He said, If ye ridicule us now, we in our turn can look down on you with ridicule likewise. But soon will ye know who it is on whom will descend a penalty that will cover them with shame, on whom will be unloosed a penalty lasting. At length, behold, there came our command, and the fountains of the earth gushed forth. We said, Embark therein, of each kind 2, male and female, in your family, except those against whom the word has already gone forth, and the believers, but only a few believed with him. So he said, Embark ye on the ark in the name of Allah, whether it move or be at rest, for my Lord is, be sure, all forgiving, most merciful. So the ark floated with them on the waves, towering like mountains, and Noach called out to his son, who had separated himself from the rest, O my son, embark with us, and be not with the unbelievers. The son replied, I will betake myself to some mountain. It will save me from the water. Noach said, This day nothing can save from the command of Allah, but those on whom Allah hath mercy. And the waves came between them, and the son was amongst those overwhelmed in the flood. When the word went forth, O earth, swallow up thy water, and O sky, withhold thy rain. And the water abated, and the matter was ended. The ark rested on Mount Judi, and the word went forth, Away with those who do wrong. And Noach called upon his Lord, and said, O my Lord, surely my son is of my family, and thy promise is true, and thou art the justest of judges. Allah said, O Noach, he is not of thy family, for his conduct is unrighteous. So ask not of me that of which thou hast no knowledge. I give thee counsel, lest thou act like the ignorant. Noach said, O my Lord, I do seek refuge with thee, lest I ask thee for that of which I have no knowledge, and unless thou forgive me and have mercy on me, I should indeed be lost. The word came on Noach, Come down from the ark with peace from us, and blessing on thee and some of the peoples who will spring from those with thee. But there will be other peoples to whom we shall grant their pleasures for a time, but in the end will a grievous penalty reach them from us. Such are some of the stories of the unseen which we have revealed unto thee before this. Neither thou nor thy people knew them, so persevere patiently, for the end is for those who are righteous. To the Ad people we sent Hud, one of their own brethren. He said, O my people, worship Allah. Ye have none other deity but Allah. Your other deities ye do nothing but invent. O my people, I ask of you no reward for this message. My reward is from none but Allah, who created me. Will ye not then understand? And O my people, I ask forgiveness of your Lord, and turn to Allah in repentance. Allah will send you the skies pouring abundant rain, and add strength to your strength, so turn ye not back in sin. They said, O Hud, no clear sign that hast thou brought us, and we are not the ones to desert our deities on thy word, nor shall we believe in thee. We say nothing but that perhaps some of our deities may have seized thee with imbecility. He said, I call to Allah to witness, and do ye bear witness that I am free from the sin of ascribing to Allah other deities as partners. So scheme your worst against me, all of you, and give me no respite. I put my trust in Allah, my Lord and your Lord. There is not a moving creature, but Allah hath grasp of its forelock. Verily it is my Lord that is on a straight path. If ye turn away, I at least have conveyed the message with which I was sent to you. My Lord will make another people to succeed you, and you will not harm Allah in the least. for my Lord hath care and watch over all things. So when our decree issued, we saved Hud and those who believed with him. By special grace from ourselves, we saved them from a severe penalty. Such were the odd people. They rejected the signs of their Lord and cherisher, disobeyed Allah's apostles, and followed the command of every powerful, obstinate transgressor. And they were pursued by a curse in this life and on the day of judgment. Behold, for the odd rejected their Lord and cherisher. Behold, removed from sight were the people of Hud. Removed from sight were the people of Hud. To the Tamud people we sent Salih, one of their own brethren. He said, O my people, worship Allah. Ye have none other deity but Allah. It is Allah who hath produced you from the earth and settled you therein. Then ask forgiveness of Allah and turn to Allah in repentance, for my Lord is always near, ready to answer. They said, O Salih, thou hast been of us a sender of our hopes hitherto. Dost thou now forbid us the worship of what our fathers worshipped? But we are truly in suspicious, disquieting doubt as to that to which thou invitest us. He said, O my people, do ye see I have a clear sign from my Lord, and Allah hath sent mercy unto me from Allah? Who then can help me against Allah if I were to disobey Allah? What then would ye add to my portion but perdition? And O my people, this she-camel of Allah is a symbol to you. Leave her to feed on Allah's free earth, and inflict no harm on her, or a swift penalty will seize you. But they did hamstring her, and so he said, enjoy yourselves in your homes for 3 days, then will be your ruin. Behold, there is a promise not to be belied. When our decree issued, we saved Salih and those who believed with him by special grace from ourselves and from the ignominy of that day. For thy Lord Allah is the strong one and able to enforce Allah's will. The mighty blast overtook the wrongdoers, and they lay prostrate in their homes before the Matan, as if they had never dwelt and flourished there. Behold, for the Tamud rejected their Lord and cherisher. Behold, removed from sight were the Tamud. There came our messengers to Abraham with glad tidings. They said, peace. He answered, peace, and hastened to entertain them with a roasted calf. But when he saw their hands went not towards the meal, he felt some mistrust of them, and conceived a fear of them. They said, fear not, we have been sent against the people of Lot. And his wife was standing there, and she laughed. But we gave her glad tidings of Yitzhak, and after him of Yaakov. She said, alas for me, shall I bear a child, seeing I am an old woman, and my husband here is an old man? That would indeed be a wonderful thing. They said, dost thou wonder at Allah's decree, the grace of Allah, and Allah's blessing on you, O ye people of the house? For Allah is indeed worthy of all praise, full of all glory. When fear had passed from the mind of Abraham, and the glad tidings had reached him, he began to plead with us for Lot's people. For Abraham was without doubt forbearing of faults, compassionate, and given to look to Allah. O Abraham, seek not this, the decree of thy Lord hath gone forth. For them there cometh a penalty that cannot be turned back. When our messengers came to Lot, he was grieved on their account, and felt himself powerless to protect them. He said, this is a distressful day. And his people came rushing towards him, and they had been long in the habit of practicing abominations. He said, O my people, here are my daughters. They are pure for you, if ye marry. Now fear Allah, and cover me not with shame about my guests. Is there not amongst you a single right-minded man? They said, well, dost thou know we have no need of thy daughters? Indeed, thou knowest quite well what we want. He said, would that I had power to suppress you, or that I could betake myself to some powerful support. The messenger said, O Lot, we are messengers from thy Lord. By no means shall they reach thee. Now travel with thy family whilst yet a part of the night remains, and let not any of you look back, but thy wife will remain behind. To her will happen what happens to the people. Matan is their time appointed, is not the Matan nigh. When our decree issued, we turned the cities upside down, and rained down on them brimstones hard as baked clay, spread layer on layer, marked as from thy Lord, nor are they ever distant from those who do wrong. To the Madian people we sent Shuaib, one of their own brethren. He said, O my people, worship Allah. Ye have none other deity but Allah, and give not a short measure or weight. I see you in prosperity, but I fear for you the penalty of a day that will compass you all around. And O my people, give just measure and weight, nor withhold from the people the things that are their due. Commit not evil in the land with intent to do mischief. That which is left you by Allah is best for you, but if ye but believed, but I am not set over you to keep watch. They said, O Shuaib, Does thy religion of prayer command thee that we leave off the worship which our fathers practice, or that we leave off doing what we like with our property? Truly thou art the one that forbeareth with faults and is right-minded. He said, O my people, see whether I have a clear sign from my Lord, and Allah hath given me sustenance pure and benevolent. As from Allah, I wish not in opposition to you to do that which I forbid you to do. I only desire your betterment to the best of my power, and my success in my task can only come from Allah. In Allah I trust, and unto Allah I look. And O my people, let not my descent from you cause you to sin, lest ye suffer a fate similar to that of the people of Noah, or of Hud, or of Salih. Nor are the people of Lot distant off from you. But ask forgiveness of your Lord, and turn unto Allah in repentance, for my Lord is indeed full of mercy and loving kindness. They said, O Shuaib, much of what thou sayest we do not understand. In fact, amongst us we see that thou hast no strength. Were it not for thy family, we should certainly have stoned thee, for thou hast amongst us no great position. He said, O my people, is then my family of further consideration with you than Allah? For ye cast Allah away behind your backs with contempt. But verily my Lord encompasseth on all sides all that ye do. And O my people, do whatever ye can, I will do my part. Soon will ye know who it is on whom descends the penalty of ignominy, and who is a liar. And watch ye, for I too am watching with you. When our decree issued, we saved Shuaib and those who believed with him by special mercy from ourselves. But the mighty blast did seize the wrongdoers, and they lay prostrate in their homes by the Matan, as if they had never dwelt and flourished there. Ah, behold, how the Madian were removed from sight, as were removed the Tamud. And we sent Moshe with our clear signs and an authority manifest unto Pharaoh and his chiefs, but they followed the command of Pharaoh, and the command of Pharaoh was no right guide. He will go before his people on the day of judgment, and lead them into the fire, as his cattle are led to water. But woeful indeed will be the place to which they are led. And they are followed by a curse in this life, and on the day of judgment, and woeful is the gift which shall be given unto them. These are some of the stories of communities which we relate unto thee. Of them some are standing, and some have been mown down by the sickle of time. It was not we that wronged them, they wronged their own souls. The deities other than Allah whom they invoked benefited them no whit, when they were issued the decree of thy Lord, nor did they add aught to their lot but perdition. Such is the chastisement of thy Lord, when Allah chastises communities in the midst of their wrong. Grievous indeed, and severe is Allah's chastisement. And that is a sign for those who fear the penalty of the hereafter. That is a day for which mankind will be gathered together. That will be a day of testimony. Nor shall we delay it but for a term appointed. The day it arrives, no soul shall speak except by Allah's leave. Of those gathered, some will be wretched, and some will be blessed. Those who are wretched shall be in the fire. There will be for them therein nothing but the heaving of sighs and sobs. They will dwell therein for all the time that the heavens and the earth endure, except as thy Lord willeth, for thy Lord is the sure accomplisher of what Allah planneth. And those who are blessed shall be in the garden. They will dwell therein for all the time that the heavens and the earth endure, except as thy Lord willeth, a gift without break. Be not then in doubt as to what these men worship. They worship nothing but what their fathers worshipped before them. But verily we shall pay them back in full their portion without the least abatement. We certainly gave the book to Moshe, but differences arose therein. Had it not been that a word had gone forth before from thy Lord, the matter would have been decided between them, but they are in suspicious doubt concerning it. And of a surety to all will your Lord pay back in full the recompense of their deeds, for Allah knoweth well all that they do. Therefore stand firm in the straight path as thou art commanded. Thou and those with thee turn unto Allah, and transgress not from the path, for Allah seeth well all that they do. And incline not to those who do wrong, or the fire will seize you, and ye have no protectors other than Allah, nor shall ye be helped. And establish regular prayers at the two ends of the day, and at the approaches of the night. For those things that are benevolent remove those that are evil. For those things that are benevolent remove those that are evil. Be that the word of remembrance to those who remember their Lord. And be steadfast in patience, for verily Allah will not suffer the reward of the righteous to perish. Why were there not amongst the generations before you persons possessed of balanced benevolent sense? prohibiting men from mischief in the earth, except a few amongst them whom we saved from harm. But the wrongdoers pursued the enjoyment of the benevolent things of life which were given them, and persisted in sin. Nor would thy Lord be the one to destroy communities for a single wrongdoing, if its members were likely to mend. If thy Lord had so willed, Allah could have made mankind one people, but they will not cease to dispute, except those on whom thy Lord hath bestowed Allah's mercy, and for this did Allah create them, and the word of thy Lord shall be fulfilled. I will fill hell with jinns and men altogether. All that we relate to thee of the stories of the apostles, with it we make firm thy heart. In them there cometh to thee the truth, as well as an exhortation and a message of remembrance to those who believe. Say not to those who do not believe, do whatever ye can, we shall do our part. And wait. Say to those who do not believe, do whatever ye can, we shall do our part. And wait ye, we too shall wait. To Allah do belong the unseen secrets of the heavens and the earth, and to Allah goeth back every affair for decision. Then worship Allah and put thy trust in Allah, and thy Lord is not unmindful of aught that ye do. Sri Guru Granth Sahib, Japji, and verse 1. There is but one and only one Vaheguru, and Vaheguru's existence is eternal. Vaheguru alone is the creator of all there is. Vaheguru is not afraid of anybody or anything, nor does Vaheguru have enmity towards anybody. Vaheguru never dies. Vaheguru's form is timeless, and Vaheguru is self-existent. Vaheguru is unborn and free from incarnations. One can realize Vaheguru only through the grace of a spiritual guide, the Guru. Vaheguru exists when there was no beginning. Vaheguru exists even before the beginning of time. Vaheguru exists even now. O Nanak, Vaheguru exists forever. How can one become true or worthy of you reuniting with Vaheguru? How can the wall of falsehood between human being and Vaheguru be shattered? By pondering, one cannot have a conception of Vaheguru, even though one may ponder over millions of times. Even though one may remain silent for a very long time, yet one cannot control the wanderings of the mind. Even if you fulfill all your desires for worldly comforts and luxuries, your hunger or desire will never be satiated. Millions of similar clever ideas shall be of no avail. How can we become true or worthy of union with Vaheguru? How can the distance between human being and Vaheguru be reconciled, and the wall of falsehood which separates us from Vaheguru be demolished? The answer is that we should live according to Vaheguru's command, which, O Nanak, has been written in our destiny from the very beginning. Alhamdulillah, Ar-Rahmani Ar-Rahim, Allah Wabha, Dao Ka Dao Fe Chung Dao, Min Ka Min Fe Chung Min, Ja Rastafari, Deus nos te quies in cele santo facito nomen tuum, Vaheguru Sanam, Baruch Ata Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kasanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'sok b'revai Torah. Amen. Baruch Ata Elohim Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei Peri Agafen. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Sivamastu Savejikatahim, Sabe Sata Bhavantu Sukhitata. Fagabiyam. Akwaba Rupendo Namani, Fakir Yinasanami, Chinda Damperamayan, Libovamir, Umajaka. Ubuntu Shabona Fakithka. Shishem. Kamasunira, Domo Arigato, Pilama Yellow, Tokadoko Shingun, Gomanagan. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Vata Jamya Yatafanami. Ado, Aho, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Amen. Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom. Mir. Satnam, Jai Janindra. Zaijian, adios, Che Chaklis. Metta Samadhi, Eshwasol Agape Ke Erini. Asimpe na Asmuje. Kilo Fred. Love, peace, happiness, liberation.